Hey sis, home, mi casa, à la maison, no matter what language, it all means the same thing, where women should feel safe. With Domestic Violence Month fast approaching in October, this is something that women need to consider. Home. When we think about it, it's usually a place of refuge for rest, relaxation, as well as fun times with others. For too many black women across the world, it's not. Femicide, the intentional killing of women and girls because they are female, and or crimes committed against women and girls, most often by an intimate partner or family member, is an actual global crisis. With cases like Ramika Meeks, who I referred to in Daily Notes for Black Women, note 33, a few weeks ago, these cases of black women losing their lives at the hands of their black male partners or ex-male partners who they no longer have interest in has become a real trend and not a positive one. A quick scroll through social media on any given day will show cases of black women who have been harmed or a fatality at the hands of an ex-male partner. Most of the time, the harm is due to her either being pregnant or wanting out of the relationship, just like Ramika wanted out also. Recent UN data that can be accessed here, and if you are catching this on Substack, then the data will be linked into the actual written article. If you are on YouTube listening in, I will put the data in the description box for you. This shows that in 2023, an estimated 85,000 women and girls were intentionally killed, and about 60% of those killings, that's roughly about 51,100, were carried out by an intimate partner or family member. That averages to roughly one woman or girl killed every 10 minutes. These numbers are not just numbers. They are our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our friends, and fellow women. So what do the numbers actually show for black women globally? Well, in the USA, where race and ethnicity is captured, in this part of the world, the patterns are quite stark. In the US, the CDC reported that during 2020 to 2021, the proportion of intimate partner homicide victims that were non-Hispanic black women had increased. Also, suspects were more often previously known to the police. This, it could be argued, shows that for black women here, there's both a heightened risk of harm and also systemic failures that prevent escalation. In the United Kingdom, across the water, the Office for National Statistics reported that the murder rate for people who identified as black was more than 4 times higher than people who were recorded as white over the last 3-year period. They also cite that domestic murders in high numbers involved persons who knew the victim. A majority of female victims were fatally harmed by a partner or ex-partner. In this part of the world, black women seem to be at the same risk of domestic violence that leads to a fatality, just as their black American female counterparts are also. The Office for National Statistics actually cited in their report, and this is a direct quote, the homicide rate over the 3-year period to year ending March 2024 was 39.8 victims per million population for the black ethnic group, over 4 times higher than for the white ethnic group, 8.5 victims per million population. Heading back west from the United Kingdom, in Brazil and South Africa, both academic and public reports show racial inequality in female homicide and domestic violence rates. In Brazil, for example, a large share of women killed are black, and in South Africa, femicide rates are among the highest globally. This has resulted in, obviously, a national outcry and activism in these parts of the world. In a report by Seleção Public Health, the recorded data from Brazil has been cited as data from Latin American countries show that in the course of their lives, more than 50% of women have reported cases of physical or sexual violence by intimate partners. So this is in Brazil. So why are black women at particular risk? There's no single cause. Looking at the data globally, it could be argued that there are many different factors. However, I have given my theory on why Black women are at risk of mistreatment by male partners of the same race in previous essays. Reasons such as a high level of narcissism in Black men, which logically can be argued is down to the dynamic between Black men and women. Now, by this, I mean women being put in a position where they have to coddle Black men, and Black men trying so desperately to convince Black women that he is a prize, in quotation marks, to use their words. And they do this even if these men can only pay the light bill or if they are lacking in some way. This is not me just saying this. We see this mindset and this grandiose, self-inflated sense of importance in men within the Black manosphere and within the white manosphere, to be fair. But we see it a lot in Black male celebrities. This I spoke about when I used Simone Biles' husband as an example of a Black male celebrity who openly showed that he saw no real value in his wife, that she was not his type, to use his words, and that he was the prize or the catch, to use his words. And I went through this in my essay, Yes, He's a Narc and Here's Why. So if you're catching this on YouTube, I will put the link to that essay in the description box so you can see the commentary that Simone's husband actually gave about her and his viewpoint. If you are listening to this on Substack, it will be linked in the written version of this article. Another theory is basically down to the rise of the Black manosphere and their open advocacy, you could say, for the mistreatment, the devaluing, and lack of care towards Black women. These topics I have covered in my essays, Why Don't They Like Educated Black Women? And if you're catching this on YouTube, I will put that link to that video essay in the description box. If you're on Substack, you will catch it in the direct article. And also the other essay, The Wake Up Call Adolescents Gave to Women, which I will link in the description box for YouTube, and you will catch it in the direct article. There will be a link there on Substack. Aside from this, we can also look to other reasons why there could be an increased risk for Black women. Structural inequality, so poverty, housing insecurity. In some parts of the world, there are quite high numbers for low employment for Black women and Black people. And then we've got limited access to safe services, which can increase women's vulnerability and reduce their options or their chances to escape abusive relationships. Distrust of the police. So we have differential treatment of certain people of certain races. We have over-policing in some communities, which can deter reporting and fail to protect people who are survivors or people who wish to survive. Another thing is things like firearms and weapons access, and this is really only relevant probably just to the USA, I would say, because it's here where firearms are more available. Of course, this can increase intimate partner homicides with this access. We've got things like cultural and social norms, which I kind of touched on earlier. Black women being silenced with stigma around speaking out, silence being driven by fear or shame, which will allow abuse to escalate and to go unchecked. And then finally, we've got things like data invisibility. So by this, I mean many nations don't collect or separate their data by race and ethnicity consistently. So this can help distort the numbers as well. With all that said, what the data can't tell us, but does suggest, is that numbers, data, facts, they don't lie. And this is the biggest argument that anyone who has an interest in the safety of Black women has when highlighting what's actually happening for Black women globally or even nationally or locally where they are. Femicide for Black women is on the rise. There are no two ways about it. On the other hand, numbers can, when not recorded in full, or if, incidences are omitted by Black women out of fear, it can underestimate Black women's actual lived reality. You may not see the full picture. Many Black women lose their lives following repeated incidences of escalating abuse. So this could be things like threats, triangulation with other women, stalking, using children as pawns. all the things that we saw with Ramika Meeks' case, which I cited earlier on, these experiences for Black women can be unreported, or when they are reported, maybe not taken seriously by the authorities when they do report them. And this could be down to things such as racism, for example. Why Black women should actually be concerned by all this? Because around the Black diaspora, showing concern about the rising cases of femicide against Black women is about survival, fairness, and justice for the many Black women who are harmed or go on to pass away at the hands of a man. When systemic racism intersects with misogyny, hate, and the Black Manifest messages for and about Black women, and then we have a failure to act by the police, and Black women's lives are placed at disproportionate risk, this should be a concern. Concern over this is not alarmism, it's just recognition. Concern must translate into pressure for change, so accurate data, survivor services, community mobilisation, legal protections, policies that address the root causes. Last but not least, Black women must summon the courage to speak out when they are victims and also lend support to advocate for the victims. The community must listen and believe Black women when they appear to be in difficult situations with male partners that have been violent or have the potential to turn violent. They must not be shamed or encouraged to stay quiet. Numbers are just numbers. They don't tell a full story of how each woman ended up there. However, behind every statistic lies a life that was cut short and one less Black mother, sister, daughter, or loved one for the people that are left behind. Recognising femicide as not just a gendered but also a racialised global crisis is the first step towards trying to prevent this. Action by Black women to say no to the harm and support throughout the diaspora to unnormalise the mistreatment of Black women is the antidote to silence. That's it for today. As we move into Domestic Violence Month, I will be reporting on this, bringing some more data, reports, facts, figures on what we need to know in terms of Black women and their safety as we go through the month. So thank you for staying with me. Thank you for making it this far into the video if you're on YouTube, and if you do enjoy this kind of content, then do consider subscribing. Drop me a comment, let me know what your thoughts are, and if you're over on Substack, then thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you in the next one. Much love, the Black Woman Essayist.